Well then, let us step into the future of building. For our opening plenary session, we have invited some high-level experts and political decision makers to discuss some current issues. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are fully covering all legal requirements dealing with the COVID-19 safety measures here in our studio. But let me first say hello to Michael Otter. He is the Director General of Advantage Austria, and with this, the organizer of this event. Good morning, Mr. Otter. Good morning, Mr. Otter. Well, what in particular is it that makes Future of Building so interesting for the construction industry?
Well, I think this is a very distinctive conference which draws its USP from two main pillars. And one pillar is information. We really try to inform our audience about the market trends, about the business opportunities which are out there all over the world. And we do this through keynotes and plenary and podium discussions and other formats. So information is one pillar. And the second, which I think is a really core part of our conference, is to talk about business. Is the B2B part. You register your profile, you go to the conference platform, you put in your profile, you search for other business partners, and you find the correct business partner from all over the world. And you have the opportunity to have a video call, a chat with your business partner about concrete business opportunities. So information and business.
Well, that's amazing. But to be honest, I mean, how do you feel about doing this conference as a virtual event?
Well, as you all know, we had the business is all over the world, not only in Austria, and everybody, in fact. We had a rough year. I mean, we had a challenging year with all the COVID situation around all the world. It started with interruptions in all of our supply chains. We all have difficulties when we try to have our business troubles, when we try to travel and meet business partners all over the world. So this is a challenge to do your business development nowadays. And of course, with restrictions, businesses had to close, the borders closed. So all a challenging year, but also a year with opportunities. And when we talk about opportunities, we realize that collaboration, talking with other business people in Austria, but also talking with other business people with all over the world is a central part when we look into the future. And usually the future of business, this conference is a live conference. It's a conference where everybody is present, where if you can imagine all these decision makers from all over the world, they mingle in a room, they meet, they discuss, they talk about business. Well, this is not possible this year, but what we did, we created a virtual room. And if you have this picture in mind, people meeting and talking about business, we tried to create this in the virtual world. And it is not the same, but nevertheless, I think it will give us this positive perspective for the future. Collaboration, this year collaboration in the virtual world, which will result in real business.
Mm-hmm. And somehow it seems as if you're trying to seize the best out of both worlds. Talking about two worlds, successful business cooperation and international cooperation obviously needs both Advantage Austria on the one hand and good support by the government on the other hand. And this is the reason why we have Florian Frauscher here with us today. He is the Director General for Economic Affairs, Innovation and the International Policy in the Federal Ministry for Digital and Economic Affairs. Welcome, Mr. Frauscher. Let us talk about supporting Austrian companies. Let us talk about Go International. Which role does this program take in the internationalization efforts of your ministry?
Thank you. Let me start to talk a little bit how important export is for Austria and for our economy. 50% of our GDP is generated abroad, and every second job is coming from export. So it's really important for the government to help our companies during their export activities. Unfortunately, last year our export declined by around 10% due to COVID crisis. But, and that's the good news, the exports are coming back and we are recovering again. And new data shows that we will be already in the end of this year at the same level, at the pre-crisis level with our exports. And that's really fantastic news. The government tries to help companies, for example, with the program Go International you mentioned. What do? We give subsidies to SMEs, for example, to conquer new markets. Or we also organize events with our partner, the Austrian Chamber of Commerce. There the people can networking and get expertise like this forum today.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Frauscher, is there anything in specific to know regarding the construction industry?
Yeah, the construction industry is really important in Austria, but also within the export sector. And I think the construction industry is also really important to fight climate change. And Austria is known as that country in sustainability. And I think we have really many good companies that are doing sustainability construction. And one example, one showcase is the Austrian World Expo that is starts this year in October in Dubai, and I think we will have today also a panel where we speak about this Austrian showcase, where really amazing design comes together with really amazing technology, and you should join also this panel.
Well, I can see it. Advantage Austria and Go International, a winning team, obviously. Never change a winning team. So, gentlemen, many thanks for this opening talk, and have a great conference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we will talk a lot about sustainable materials, of course, today. And of course, wood is one of the favorites when it comes to sustainability. In general, Austria's wood industry is a very international one, but let us first have a look at the material itself. Dieter Lechner, he is the Deputy Director of the Association of the Austrian Wood Industry, is joining us here on the panel. Good morning, Mr. Lechner. How do you see the role of wood and timber industry and for a sustainable construction world?
Good morning. Thanks to be invited to participate in the panel to talk about building with wood. Well, we are facing one of the most challenging times in history. Global housing is expected to double by the year 2060. So in order to address this demand and also to avoid increasing greenhouse gas emissions, the construction industry has to look out for low carbon materials. At the moment, construction industry accounts for about 11% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And therefore, the construction industry will have to allow sustainable and new building materials such as wood. And wood is a truly sustainable material as it stores CO2 through its lifetime. The longer wood is used, the better it is for the environment. And building with wood in urban environments, you can build a second forest in the town, while at the same time you have trees growing around the city and even absorb more CO2. And another environmental advantage of wood is that it allows for prefabrication and industrialized building methods, which, for instance, would lead to fewer truck transportation. And if you look on the technical properties of wood, you will also detect some advantages. For even, you can expand existing cities, where with other building materials, you can build one story up on the building. With wood, you can allow to build up to 3 stories. And with regard to the prefabrication, you will also identify that you can reduce the noise and the impact on the environment by using wood. So the investors and the cities are looking for new materials such as wood. And even the politicians have detected that wood could be a solution for the future. President of the EU Commission, Mrs. von der Leyen, gave her first State of the Union in fall last year. And she mentioned even more ambitious goals with regard to the Green Deal. And in this respect, she said that cities have to convert from sinks into storages of carbon. And thus is a new possibility to use the renewable material wood.
And really convincing. And what is Austria's role in this development, Mr. Lechner?
Wood is one of the most important materials of Austria. Around 30 million cubic meters we grow in Austrian forests a year. So if you break it down, it would mean that you have 1 cubic meter of wood in 1 second. And if you consider that, for instance, a traditional single-family house would need at about 40 cubic meters of wood, that would mean that in a day, about 2,150 houses grow in Austrian forests. And as wood is such an important part of our industry, Austria is also happening to be one of the experts in timber construction and even in cross-laminated timber elements. The companies have elaborated a lot of reliable and safe solutions with regard to building with wood, especially in cities. So we are the forerunners with regards to timber construction in the world, not only from the technological point of view, but also with regard to the craftsmanship to erect such kind of buildings. For instance, let me give you at the end some examples. The famous Hoho, the second tallest building in Vienna, or for instance, the faculty building of the NTU University in Singapore, which will cover 45,000 meters of square, which will be the most important and the biggest Asian timber building as such. Or for instance, the Milwaukee Ascent, which will be a 25-story building, 87 meters high, which will be the tallest mass timber building in the world. And they have one thing in common. They are built with Austrian influence. Wow. So we are very much looking forward to see a lot of further timber buildings popping up on the world map.
Well, wood and timber obviously have enormous potential when it comes to a green future, no doubt. But there is even more. But there seems to be even more. Andreas Pfeiler, you are the director of the Association of Building Materials and Ceramic Industries. Welcome, Andreas Pfeiler. So what is the answer? What is the approach of the ceramic and concrete industry, of course, concerning the future of building?
Yes, good morning, and thank you very much for this question. Of course, also our industries that are producing bricks, concrete, cement or gypsum are working very hard on those issues to find new solutions for the future. But before I go into details, I would like to give you a picture concerning sustainability. The majority of our European cities are based on Roman villages. And the materials that the Romans used at that time, coming from local resources like bricks or natural stones, are the base, the foundation of our modern cities. So just because those materials are not visible, they are not wasted. They're still in a phase of use. So maybe they were not green branded to that time, but they are best practice for sustainability. So if we discuss about sustainability, we have to do a serious approach for life cycle analysis over a long period. Of course, in the phase of production, our material cause emissions and we need a lot of energy to produce them. But on the other side, we know that we have the potential to mitigate climate change if we use those products. And the Austrian Ministry of Climate Action awarded our invention, the technology of thermal component activation, as such an option to avoid the consumption of fossil energy in the phase of use, as an option to avoid further emissions in the phase of use. So the principle for that is rather easy. We collect a lot of renewable energy coming from the sun, the wind, from geothermy, and we store those renewable energy not in batteries. We store it in the bulky parts of the building, like ceilings or walls, and have the possibility to supply this energy over the whole year to heat or cool the rooms in the building. So especially in summertime, we do not need these rather less stylish air-conditioned devices hanging out of the wall of every second building. That's crazy. So we are convinced that the green building of the future is not a question of wood, concrete, cement. It's a question if we can solve the problem of the energy supply. So the energy issue has the potential to change the game, but therefore we have to leave our path of common patterns.
Change the game. You said, where are these game changers and who are they?
So far, buildings are just energy consumers. So we need to support and push some solutions that buildings become more and more energy self-supplier of renewable energy. So we have to use the storage capacity of the bulky parts of the building to store this energy in in those parts. And in Vienna, meanwhile, some quarters were built up with this new technology, and that works quite good. But that's just the first step. The next step must be that we have to collect every kind of energy coming from the building. For example, you take a shower at 36 degrees, but the wastewater runs down the drain with 34 degrees. So that's lost energy. We have to gather this energy and to restore it in the bulky parts of the building. So we are convinced that the energy issue is the key to solve the problem, to fight against the climate change in the construction sector. Just pushing one option and discuss about green branded products is very short-sighted, because in our point of view, the climate change deserves more than just one option. And always keep in mind that building is not for one generation, it's built for many generations, and many materials are just in use, even though they are not visible.
Well, I sense an interesting competition coming up between the two of you, and it might be a good cooperation as well. Thank you. But you know, in the end, the best material needs well-founded planning and project implementation, and this is the moment when construction engineering comes into play. The Austrian Consultants Association represents Austria's highly qualified consulting engineers, and Walter Painzi is the director of the ACA. Welcome, Mr. Painzi. So how do you define the role of the ACA within the construction sector?
Thank you very much for this invitation. It's a great chance for all of us to get to know the latest development, the latest news of all this sustainability and green building. So let me give you just a brief introduction of the Austrian Consulting Association and their main goals. I'm the president of this organization, and this association is a legally established body of all the independent Austrian engineers who offer their services in every field of technology and natural science. Our association represents the professional and the business interests of all our members, and we focus on lobbying efforts on the international markets. Additionally, our organization creates framework conditions, general terms of business, and insurance framework for all our consulting engineers. In this context, I want to mention that we work also in several task forces in several in the standardization sector. That means we create technology standards as well as management standards. I want to mention here the whole family of ISO standards like quality management, environmental management, anti-bribery standards, and building information modeling standards. And last but not least, we provide also international networking opportunities, and we promote the engineering image in our society.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an impressive range of tasks. And how successful are the Austrian consultants in the international markets?
The range, the area of activities of the consulting engineers is not only limited on the home market, it's going more and more international. That means, although the Austrian engineering companies are not as large as the international competitors, but you can find many international projects where Austrian engineers are involved. The international market for the Austrian engineering companies is about 1.5 to 1.7 billion euro each year for the last 4 or 5 years. So if you compare it with the entire Austrian GDP, it's a very respectable amount. In this context, we award also national projects for the Austrian Award of Consulting Engineers. That means, For example, some international projects like hydraulic engineering and water management, like a flood protection project in Bangkok, Thailand, or an environmental project. It was a database for a wastewater management system in Ningbo, it's a district of Shanghai in China, or industrial technology like asphalt blowing unit in Thailand. That means we delivered and planning entire plant of this oxidation asphalt unit in Thailand. A city development concept in Tirana in Albania, a lightning consultancy services for a terminal in Singapore at the Changi airport. So these are only a few examples, but I can point out our range of engineering services is rather extensive, and we are able to offer engineering solutions for almost every challenge.
Well, impressive examples of your tasks, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking part in this opening plenary session, and that you have shared your topics that will be relevant for the future of building.